good morning, and welcome to the Brenda Perryman Show right here on TV 33 WHPR, Comcast 90 in Detroit, and all over Oakland County. And courtesy of the World Wide Web, we're on www.tv33whpr.com. And I have a great show for you this morning. In our second segment, we have Doctors Ronald and Blake Livingston, and they're our dentists, and this is Meet the Dentist Day. So if you have any questions, get them ready. Also, our first segment is with a friend of mine, someone who's just rising to the heights, the very heights in the political scheme of things. And she wants to hear from you, and that is Mayor Brenda Lawrence of Southfield. Good morning, Brenda.
Good morning. Good morning.
And,
How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I know you're good, and I know you're
yes.
busy.
Yes. I feel great, though. I'm excited and just thankful for this opportunity I have.
Oh, yes, yes. And I know you'll do just what you need to do with it. And also, I'll never forget the night we were at the African American Museum, and I was waiting for my car, and Brenda was behind me, and she says, Brenda, I'm running for mayor. I said, mayor? I said, mayor. Southfield had the same mayor for 150 years.
Yes,
and she ran and she won. And so this is one determined woman, very determined, and you have to admire that. But you're running for Congress.
Yes.
In the 14th district?
In the 14th Congressional District.
Right. And that's to take Gary Peters' current place, right?
Gary Peters is currently running for Senate, and so his seat is open. And there's something that I think people should know that's very significant. In the history of the 14th Congressional District, from when you look through it, there's never been a woman to represent the 14th Congressional District. And there's never been an African American to ever represent Oakland County.
Ever.
So I'm looking forward to this general election, and to me, it's just another door that's been opened.
Oh yes. And what are some of the? Well, there's so many issues, but what is on? Wait, let's back up first in case some of my viewers don't know. You went to school right here in Detroit at Pershing High School.
Yes, I'm a doughboy.
Persian doughboy. I was
Yes.
married to one of those once. But anyway,
That's another story.
that's another story. But so with Pershing, you rooted right here in the city.
Yes, born and raised in the city of Detroit. Went to Corville, Nolan, and Pershing.
That seemed to be the thing.
Yes.
Corville.
Bought my first home in Northwest Detroit. Married my childhood sweetheart.
42 years?
Yes. Received a scholarship from Pershing to go to the University of Detroit. Eventually completed my education in Central Michigan. I've been on the school board, city council, and mayor, and now was about 50 days away from going to Congress. So I'm
Yes,
very
we're going to
excited.
put that out there,
Yes.
going to Congress. Do you ever wake up and say to yourself, look at what I'm doing? And, thanking God.
I'm so grateful to God. I've been telling people, and especially women, because 2 years ago, I didn't win this race, but I didn't give up. And it was faith. I worked hard. I do want to be a public servant and to do the work. And I'm a testament that if you just stand up and have faith, God will show out. I'm excited to go to Congress.
Well, you worked very, very hard, and I must say, I got a piece of literature every day. Every day I said, God, look, I know her life better than anybody now. I mean, you made sure that people knew about
Yes.
you. You assembled a different kind of team, and a lot of young people, too.
Yes, I had around 60 interns who just were amazing, walking doors, making phone calls. And we stayed. And this, if any lesson can be learned, everybody wants endorsements. Endorsements, they do mean something. However, it's about
It,
the voter.
the people.
You must touch the voter, and that's where I stayed. I stayed
Well,
on that ground
they
level.
came to the door too.
Yes, yes.
Brenda Lawrence, I said, I know her. I said, okay, save the spiel for my next door neighbor who may not know her. Yes, and the calls and everything.
Yes.
They were, I mean, people. They were just out there. They were just doing it. They, for those people who did not know you, they just really let them know who you were. Now, what are some of your priorities?
Going to Congress, now I want you to know that the 14th Congressional District includes all 5 of the Grosse Points, Harper Woods, Detroit, Royal Oak Township, Oak Park, Southfield, Farmington Hills, West Bloomfield, Kego Harbor, Orchard Lake, Sylvan Lake, Pontiac, Hamtramck, and Lathrop Village.
Isn't it amazing how that district,
Oh, it's
what
amazing.
happened?
It's amazing. But I'm excited about it. I have some of the most wealthiest communities and some of the most challenged. There's 4 cities either under, coming out of, or going into emergency manager. I have fresh water. I have an international border. I have an airport. I have an international bridge. We have the M1 rail. We have diversity of Hispanic, of Chaldean, Jewish, African American, Arabic, Indian. We are just so rich in diversity in this district. Priorities of mine: fixing our roads and infrastructure.
After last year.
Oh my goodness! You know I got beat up about those roads.
I know they
Grayfield
did.
Road. Oh my
I
goodness!
know.
We
But
mustn't.
that wasn't for you
No.
to, you couldn't,
It was a county road.
right.
But you know, when you're a mayor, they think you're
Well,
supposed to fix
the
everything.
buck has to stop with
It
you.
does.
Yes.
But you know, in America right now, we're spending billions of dollars in other countries fixing their infrastructure, and ours is falling apart. You know the saying, "Put the mask on yourself first before you take care
Yes.
of someone else." We need to fix our own infrastructure and our roads and fund it. But the other thing is education.
Okay, I want to go back to the roads real quick
Yes.
before we get to education, which
Yes.
is something
I know
you
you're very passionate about.
very passionate about. Was, as we've seen this year, it some ways seems like it's getting to be like a third world country. The roads were bad. We had that major flooding. And I was a victim of that. It just destroyed everything downstairs. And then, like, we have blackouts. Yesterday, the power went out over Oak Park. A lot of places in Oak Park. It was just for about an hour or something. There was no warning. But I'm saying, this is kind of like other countries
Yes.
who have these things happening to them on a daily basis. It seems like it's happening to us more.
And we need someone in. I know my campaign managers told me. She said, "I took you from an 80% approval rating as a mayor to a 9% approval rating as a congressperson." But Congress must wake up and stop fighting about things. You know, they're taking another vote to repeal Obamacare. Get over it.
Waste of time.
A waste of time. And then, like you said, our roads and our infrastructure is deteriorating and falling apart in front of our eyes.
And I'm going to tell you, it's with the rain. I don't know how much Southfield was hit, but Huntington Woods.
Oh yes, we all were
over-
hit.
Right,
We're
right.
all hit.
Well, the thing is, when it started raining again, people started getting
Oh my
nervous.
goodness! I started getting phone calls.
PTSD. I
Yeah.
mean, that
Yes.
emotionally
Yes.
jarred people too. So, like you said, they are fixing up roads and everything in other countries.
Yes,
Look around you, and that's something that you would
that
be.
is something that's going to be a voice that I can bring, and this is not an inexperienced voice. I can really speak to the need and to the funding formulas that we have in the United States, and we really need to address that. It's unacceptable. It's just like we went through the debate about health care. We should not have a country as wealthy as America and have people, we were just talking to the dentist about having money so that they can have dental care, so that they can actually take care of themselves in a prenatal state before they have a child. That, you know, emergency room is not your doctor.
Right.
And
And a
so-
lot of people have used that for
Exactly. So it's so many issues, but I will tell you that roads and infrastructure, education. I met you when you in the educational
when I
system.
taught in Southfield.
Yes, and for
Yeah.
anyone who didn't get touched by her in education, I want to say she's an amazing, amazing educator because you educated, but you also inspired. It takes a gift to bring out the artistic abilities and skills of young people, and you encourage them, and gave them a venue to express themselves and grow.
Thank you. But teachers put in the time, the
Mhm.
effort, and their own money a lot of the time
Yes.
just to help these kids see the future outside of as we send them off into the world. And you were a school board member, and you also came to the first day of school to speak to
Yes.
the teachers
Yes,
and
I did.
everything
Yes,
also
yes.
all the time to kind of get us on our
Yes.
way.
Yes.
But what do you see as the things that are needed in education?
Well, there's two places I want to place my focus that I have impact in as a congresswoman. One is Head Start. We have found that because the education that you get in a Royal Oak Township, or let's say a Pontiac versus a Grosse Pointe, there should not your education should not be defined by the zip code of your parent.
Such disparity.
Yes. But we have found that if you start children early in Head Start, it shrinks that disadvantage, and it increases the level of success by over 50%. So Head Start is extremely important, especially in those challenged schools. And we've been cutting back on a federal level the funding. That's something I'm going to address. The other thing is vocational training. Brenda, I have found that it's this trend that my child's going to college. Child's going to college. Every child is not going to be successful in college. But do you know in Germany, when you are in the 12th grade and you are looking at your advancing your education, you're given two options. One is four-year college university or a vocational skill career. Both are considered honorable. And I will tell people, every single dealership in my city has a help wanted automotive mechanic. The situation we just had with the flooding, every plumber in this and within 50
They were
miles
backed up.
Yes, you couldn't get a plumber. Those are our skills, and it's one of the largest generators of entrepreneurs and people starting their own business. It is an honorable profession and pays very well, and we need to nurture that. Those are federal dollars, I think, for scholarships and computer technicians and technology.
All these encourage young people to be entrepreneurs,
Yes.
to start their own businesses,
Yes.
and the trades and the skilled trades.
Yes.
They really are lucrative.
Yes, the skilled
money-wise.
trades are very lucrative.
Yes, yes.
And it's about a quality of life, being able to have a career, being able to have a skill that will allow you to have the American dream and the quality of life. And so we push back on that, but we should encourage that. And we should, because I know some smart young people went to school to get a trade so they could work their way through college, and then they didn't graduate with all this debt. I'm an automotive mechanic. I can go to school during the evening, and during the day I'll fix cars, or I'll become a computer technician, or do
Excellent.
that. So
Yes, excellent. And there's so many new jobs coming
yes.
up.
Yes.
Jobs that didn't exist 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
And labor jobs are disappearing. Their technology.
Remember
driven,
when we were coming along, the guys that they could go right out of high school
Into
into
the
the plant, into the plant.
and they would make as much money as their father and just buy a home and become middle class immediately. That's not an option anymore.
If you have a question for Mayor Lawrence, call in now. 868-0342, 868-0351, area code 313. So I'm so happy that you brought up vocational education. That's very important. Now, are there some other issues that you see around the counties that you could help
Yes.
us at the federal level?
Yes, the M1 rail We are the last major urban area without any
I
form of
know.
mass transit.
But a lot of people say it's like so short,
It's so short. And there has to be a vision, and I'm going to be very involved in the funding and in the expanding. One of the things that I saw, because I've been going to D.C. for a number of years, you saw the dotted line of the future of their transit system, and we need to see the dotted line. What's the next step? Where we're going? Where we're taking the rail? And the one thing that I keep saying, that system that we're going to pay almost $1 billion to build must take people to work. It must be designed where we're moving people and they're able to get to work. And I saw a wonderful experience. People don't think about this, but as we age and we don't have the ability to drive, I was in Denver and I was on their mass transit system, and all these seniors were getting on at different stops, meeting their friends, and they were going downtown to have lunch, where some of them obviously weren't driving anymore, but they could get to the transit stop, and they were having a great time, even allowing seniors to have mobility and to be independent. It's so much. Our children going to school, or people going to work, we need it. The other thing is we need another span, a bridge for to increase trade between Canada and the United States. Immigration is a big issue. There
Absolutely.
in this district, the Hispanic, the Indian, the African, the Chaldean community, the Arab community. Immigration is a big issue, and all of these different cultural groups are in my district, and so that's going to be a very, very high volume need. And
Now you have parts of Detroit.
yes, I do.
Now what parts?
I have. If you start at the Grosse Points. So I come straight down Jefferson Avenue. I go all the way through to Northwest Detroit. I'm sorry, Southwest Detroit. And then I go north, so I have Indian Village, I have Palmer Woods, I have Morningside. All that is part of our district.
Wow, that's so wow.
Yes.
It's a massive district.
Yes, it
I
is.
mean, a massive
Yes, it is.
district. And I know you've had to really study what the concerns are in these different areas because, like you say, you have the gross points.
Yes.
There are different concerns there.
Yes.
And they do, people think that they don't have concerns. They have
do.
concerns
They
also.
do. Our federal government, that's what's so exciting about going to Congress, is that you touch every need and concern that's happening. My husband looked at me when the president was speaking last week, and he said, wow, you really have a very important role now, because I am going to be voting on whether we go to war.
That's what I was thinking
Funding,
of. Yeah.
funding military actions, taking care of our veterans. You know what we just went through, where the VA hospitals were not taking care of our veterans. That's something that falls in my life. That's unacceptable, and we need to fix that. If you give your life so that I can have the freedoms that I have, the minimum that we should do as a country is to take care of you and respect you in our veteran services. And so there's so many issues. Fresh water,
Yes.
in this district, with the points and the lakes and West Bloomfield, all of the waters, fresh water issues, that falls in our lap to take care of that. Regulating energy. I'm so excited. People, when they drive down Northwestern Highway, they see I have wind turbines in my city. You don't see that in our urban city.
Right, right.
And I'm putting up some solar panels throughout the city, but energy and gas consumption. So I'm just so excited about this.
You ought to be. And there's so many, Congress is a very interesting body, especially now. It doesn't have the history that it used to have when they could be bipartisan. And you may be a Republican, I may be a Democrat, but let's sit down and talk about this. And hopefully you will be one of those people who helps to bring back that bipartisanship.
I want to tell you, one of the things I want to be my legacy, I'm a mayor, and there's a number of mayors who are now Congress member. So as a mayor, we don't when we see a pothole, it doesn't have an R or D on it. It's not a Democrat or Republican pothole. It needs to be fixed. So we approach things different. The buck stops with us as a mayor. So I'm gonna start the mayor's caucus, and I'm gonna take previous mayors who are now Congress people, Republican and Democrats, because as a mayor, I've walked the halls of Congress with Republicans advocating for funding to take care of our roads and our infrastructure for cities. And I'm going to bring this group together to try to foster, let's get behind this issue. It's not a Republican or a Democrat, it's an American issue. It's about taking care of our country. And so I'm excited. I've approached some of the previous mayors, and they're excited about it. So I want that to be my legacy.
Oh, that would just be wonderful. People who could sit down and actually talk to each other, know where they're coming from,
Exactly.
having been through a lot of the same things and issues and so forth. Is there a committee that you would like to sit on?
Yes, I'm very excited, and I want transportation. Because I feel with the M1 rail, with our roads, with our sewer issues, with water, transportation and infrastructure is a committee that I know I can make a difference right here in my district, or here at home, and that's why I'm going. I'm not going there to get a fluffy, what some people say a sexy committee. I want one where I can you'll see me working.
You can work in it.
Yes.
Now, in the city of Detroit, we have so many people who feel disenfranchised.
Yes.
And we have to get them out to the polls. A number of things have happened, and especially with the emergency managers. And like you
Yes.
said, you have 4 of those cities that have emergency
Yes.
managers. What are they? They Highland Park? Well,
No,
Highland Park.
it's Hamtramck, Pontiac, Detroit, and Roanoke Township.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Mhm.
And so we want to. Don't you want to empower
Yes.
those?
Being a mayor, one of the things that I bring to the table going to Congress is that I actually know how our federal dollars help cities. Well, during those tough economic times, if it had not been for federal dollars, for me to hire police or pay my police,
Yes.
my firefighters to fight blight when all those foreclosures were happening, we need to take those federal dollars. And I'm sad to say that the city of Detroit gets a $30 million every year, and in the past, Duggan is working on over half of it went back because they didn't use it.
They didn't. How do you sleep that?
Head Start, they lost
How do you
the money.
sleep that? We have Tom on the line. Good morning, Tom.
Kind of late coming in, but anyway, Miss Lawrence, when you're elected and you go down to Congress, I'd like to know what are your 1, 2, 3 top priorities in terms of the 14th congressional district, and I'll listen offline.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom, for calling. The things that I've heard repeatedly on the campaign trail has been, in Detroit, we want to get rid of the blight. We want to clean up our community so we can start rebuilding it. That's HUD money, HUD dollars. I want to see programs where if I tear down a house, I build a new one. We got it. We need to tear down those homes that are blighted and you can't restore them. But we either need to restore them, and we're doing some of that with the auctions, but we also need to start building again in Detroit.
Well, I agree. It's funny, they tear down, and then let's review for Tom real quick,
Okay.
and I'll get back to blight.
And I talked about the roads, infrastructure, and the education.
Education,
Yes.
roads, infrastructure, education, and 2 forms of regular and and then the vocational.
Yes.
Which I have seen so many people with jobs they have gotten or companies they've created with vocational education.
It's
And
one
I
of the
said,
largest numbers.
"Golly,
Yes.
I went to college all those years. I said I need to be thinking about something like this.
But we need to know that
We
there
need
are
to have
opportunities.
everything.
Yes.
Yes, we need to have
Yes, we
everything.
do.
Now back to the blight.
Mm-hmm.
We have, I know people sitting on blocks with two houses
Mm-hmm.
on the on the block.
Mm-hmm.
And across the street from those two houses, they may have one or two houses or a
Mm-hmm.
few that are just abandoned and
Yes.
everything. That's not safe for
Mm-hmm.
anybody. And it is taking the city quite a long time
Mm-hmm.
to do that.
So I think we're on track to eliminate blight. We understand that abandoned homes is not safe for children to walk to school or to, like you said, to live in. Bad things happen in these homes. But now we need to change our mindset to start investing and building, replacing those homes. We need to bring population back
Well,
to Detroit.
what goes along with that, Mayor Lawrence, too, is crime.
Yes.
And I noticed some statistics about, the crime is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So don't even think it's not just the city of Detroit. But the city of Detroit does need more policemen.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do? Is there something we could do federally to get more policemen here?
One of the challenges that we have in Detroit is that everyone is so spread out because of all the vacant land. And so we have police. I think we're doing, I'm seeing improvement under the leadership of our new police chief. It's using them in the correct way, making sure that they have the equipment that they need. Simple things like getting vehicles was a huge issue. We got
remember.
that. But this crime issue, we must reduce crime. And, people sometimes debate back and forth. Crime is not an alien from another world. It's the people we live with. It's a mindset. You employ people, you reduce crime. When you educate children, and so when they become adults, they have choices. So, you can reduce crime through education. You can reduce crime by jobs. And how do you create jobs? You create jobs by having industry here in Michigan so that we'll attract them and say that this is a place to work, but they want a skilled workforce. And so that gets back to vocational education and college education so that companies, when they're looking around, say, where do we want to go? And so it's a multiple facet approach. It's not just one single thing.
Well, I agree with you there, but then there's that other group of people who doesn't want a job.
Mm-hmm.
They get up in the morning and say, who am I going to victimize today? And it has literally some of our seniors and other people afraid to leave the house.
Mm-hmm.
But then what can we do? I mean, what can we do? I'm really concerned about that because I talk to people all the time who are saying, well, I don't want to leave because if I leave, I know the people over there are watching me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you do about that, but I think crime is an elephant in the room.
Yes.
There are certain places in our city and in some of the parts of your district that have much less crime than others.
And this is the part that we can say that it's a problem. What are we doing about it? Children don't grow up and say, I want to be a criminal.
That's true.
Things impact their life, and the one thing that we have control over is educating them. Because if you're educated, you don't go out and knock people on the head.
Educating them and exposing them.
And then when you educate them, they have to have a place to go to work.
Yeah.
And so that's what we need to do a better job.
Now,
of.
how would you help bring more jobs? You would go to companies and try to get them to.
Well, the vocational platform that I want to do. So if I am making electronic dials and I'm looking, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm looking for somewhere to start my business, but I need electronic technicians to work in my business, I'm going to go where I know I can hire electronic technicians.
Yeah, that goes back to education.
It does.
Because I have seen businesses too saying we can't find the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that something?
Mm-hmm. But we can change that.
Oh, I believe we
We
can
can
change
change
that.
that.
And there are many programs out here, and I've talked to city officials about this and everything, that help give training, and you don't have to pay for that training. So we have to let people know
Yes.
where they can get training.
And we need to have a commitment from not just the community, but from parents, and empower the parents with knowledge and information. So you know what, Johnny is not conforming, and Johnny seems to have some issues. How can we support that parent?
Yes, and how can we work together?
Yes.
Now, Mayor Lawrence, if we want a sign
Yes.
to put on our lawns, where can we get a sign? Where are your campaign headquarters, and do you need any other volunteers?
Yes, we do. We are actively working in what we call a coordinated campaign. We must.
What is a coordinated
Coordinated campaign is the governor, who I am a Democrat, and I am strongly supporting Mark Shower
Yeah, he's been on the
and
show.
Gary Peters. And we have Godfrey Dillard for Secretary of
My
State.
high school, my classmate.
Yes,
He
and
was
and Mark Totten for AG.
Do you see that Milliken just endorsed Totten?
Oh, excellent.
Milliken,
Yes.
ex-Governor Milliken, the Republican, just endorsed Mark Totten.
Right.
Isn't that something?
That is
That tells
something.
you a lot.
It does. So we in Michigan, we really need to wake up and vote. We just had the African American Alliance. I hosted in Southfield. We had to turn people away because it was such an outpouring of people coming out to vote. If you are alive and been living in Michigan for these last 4 years, you've had the impact of negative impact from the decisions that the current governors have made.
Taxing my pension.
Exactly, cutting funding for education.
Right, and he
Look at
sits
the-
up and says he has.
I know.
No, I've seen districts suffer under
And
this
we
administration.
really need to come out and vote. And you know, the power of the African American community right now. If the African American community comes out and vote, we win this race.
Right, absolutely, because you know what our buying power is.
Yes.
So we need to. That's buying.
Yes.
That's buying.
Your vote is
It's like.
yes.
And as I say all the time, bad politicians are elected by people who don't vote.
That's right. And so you can get a sign for me. I am on Southfield Road between 12 and 13 Mile, my campaign headquarters. You can email me at Brenda@BrendaLawrence.com, and I look forward to seeing everyone.
And that campaign headquarters is right next to House of Watch Bands.
Yes.
So
On Southfield Road.
get one. Let's get out to vote, though.
Yes.
Let's get out
Please
to vote.
vote. Please
Thank
vote.
you so much. This has
Thank
been so
you.
great.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brenda Lawrence for Congress, 14th District. And now, we'll be back in just a moment with Meet the Dentist.